And this next clip this is a video clip, and there's no slaughtering or anything. It's just a broiler hen in a crate. This was actually shot in Vancouver, East Vancouver, like commercial in Hastings. And so I just want you to just so actually I'll ask a question while we're watching this. Has anyone here ever been to a chicken slaughterhouse before? Have you ever heard the way that sounds that at least broiler chickens make?
Yeah, I have chickens too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you may have noticed that the meat chickens at the slaughterhouse, they don't make the clucking sound that we know chickens to make. They keep like babies. And the reason is they are babies. Meat chickens are slaughtered at between 35 and 42 days old. So this, I would estimate that this hen in the video would be probably 39 days old. That's common. 39 days prior to this, she was a fluffy yellow chick. Well, eventually, when she dried out, she'd be fluffy, hatching out of an egg. 39 days before this was shot. And in 39 days, she's a full-size Costco rotisserie bird. What does it feel like? What would it feel like to be forced to live in a body selectively bred for explosive growth? So, by comparison, free-range, humane-certified farms, they're objectively better than the modern-day factory farm. But it's what we do to animals on the best farms anywhere close to being in alignment with our own values, our values of justice, fairness, compassion. I think a more useful way of looking at the question of like humane farms versus factory farms is just a step back. So on the right we have a factory farm, and most people recognize like, okay, we probably shouldn't be doing that. And then on the left we have an image from a humane farm. So in the humane farm, we subject the animals to fewer mutilations, less extreme confinement, just fewer deprivations in general. And then we say to those animals, well, because we've harmed you less, it's totally fine to ultimately stick a knife in your throat at the end of the day. So the next slide shows the most technologically advanced, humane certified slaughter method we have for slaughtering pigs. I think there's only one slaughterhouse in all of Canada that is actually equipped to kill pigs this way. And it's totally understandable that you guys wouldn't want to watch this, and so feel free to close your eyes if you don't want to watch it. But I would say, if it's so bad, if the most humane way we slaughter an animal is so bad, and it causes us so much emotional distress that we can't stand to watch it, how much worse is it for the actual animal that is being forced to endure this because of our food choices? So I'll explain what's happening in the video. So this is showing, so these pigs are, instead of having a hole punched through the front of their skull or being stunned with electric tongs, those are the more common methods, they're being lowered into a gas chamber, so CO2. So they're suffocating is what's happening. Now they're suffocating, because they're in a CO2 chamber, they're suffocating faster than they otherwise would if say, they drowned. But because they're breathing in CO2, they'll suffocate faster, and they won't die from this, but they'll pass out. They'll be the animal because you want to keep the heart beating. So yeah, this is the most humane method we have. And yeah, I'm encouraged by probably the world's leading animal welfare expert, Temple Grandin. Any of you guys are familiar with who she is? So, yeah, I don't think, probably don't need to show you much more of this, but you get the idea. Oh, there it is. We've taken the most vulnerable, the most innocent beings on the planet, and we treat them far worse than we treat the most guilty, the most notorious serial killers. Like in Canada, we don't have the death penalty anymore, but in countries like the States that do, it would be unthinkable to execute a serial killer, the most guilty serial killer, the way we humanely slaughter the most innocent, vulnerable beings on the planet. So imagine for a second, has anybody in this class, does anybody have pets or have had pets? Everybody at some point. I know with my dog, growing up, as with any pet, they get old and eventually they get sick. And as an act of compassion, I took my dog to the vet to be euthanized, to spare him from a drawn-out, unpleasant death. Now imagine if that vet euthanized your dog the way we humanely kill farm animals. That vet would lose their license, and they would be facing jail time for criminal animal abuse. We would never do that to our dogs because we care, because we have that compassion. So how is it that these things are happening in a so-called civilized society? It's not lack of compassion in people. We all care. We're all opposed to animal suffering. But, yeah, we're all opposed to animal suffering. But obviously, and so there's a few reasons why we do this. Probably the most common reasons are it tastes good. A double bacon cheeseburger tastes pretty good. We enjoy the taste. We're used to it. It's a habit. We've grown up. Most of us have grown up in families where, from childhood, we were served meat and animal products, and it's a habit. Also, it's convenient. Being able to eat absolutely everything on every menu of every restaurant is more convenient than picking the vegan option. But I think the overarching reason is disconnect. We go into a grocery store or a restaurant and we pull a package of bacon off the shelf, and we never have to look that animal in the eye. We never have to hear their final screams. We certainly don't have to plunge the knife into their throats ourselves, and we wouldn't, or at least most of us wouldn't, because we care. We rarely think about the conscious, sentient being that was once attached to that meat as we eat it. So the baby calf here and the baby piglet here, they also live at the Happy Herd out in Alma Grove. So that's Desi, the calf, and he was rescued from the dairy industry. So he's a male byproduct of the dairy industry. And Lucy is obviously, she was obviously rescued from the pork industry. And there's nobody in this room, there's probably nobody within a square 10 kilometers that would purposefully harm either Desi or Lucy. But the reality is, if we're consuming dairy or meat or pork, they were rescued from us. So, we are witnesses to the time in history when slitting an animal's throat is legal. And as with anything in history, hindsight is 20/20. It's so easy for us to look back at history, whether it was slavery or the Holocaust, any atrocity that humans have been a part of. It's easy to look back and to see what was wrong. And I think, as with any time, we are living in a similar time. Animals are different than humans in many ways, but in the ways that are morally relevant, we're the same. We feel pain. We have desires, wants, needs. We can go to a grocery store, and by purchasing an animal product and participating in their misery in doing so, no one's going to arrest us for paying someone to hurt an animal this way. No one's even going to look at us funny at the checkout. We can get away with it, scot-free. This means it's up to us as individuals to say, hey, I recognize they're innocent. I recognize they can suffer. I recognize they've done nothing to deserve what we do to them. Therefore, I'm not going to be a part of it. So, this is Penny. Earlier in the presentation, I told about Grace, the lamb that I lived with that is growing up on the farm. This is Penny. She lives with me now in North Van. She's a rescued, she's a former egg-laying hen. And she's happy, healthy, and she's awesome. But I want to play a video, short video, just telling her story. Oops. There we go.
So I know parents aren't supposed to have favorites, but Penny is without doubt my favorite. She's just so adorable. She's sensitive and sweet. She's incredible. Like, she knows her own name. She comes when I call her name specifically. Come here, Penny. Penny. Come here. I don't speak chicken perfectly, but you can tell when she wants something from you. She makes just a short note. It's kind of like she's just saying the word what, so it's kind of like, what? You ready for bed, Penny? Come on. Unlike the other hens that spend the night in the shed, Penny comes in and she sleeps in my bedroom every night. When it's morning, or usually around 7:30, she'll start peeping, she'll hop on the bed, and basically just telling me that, hey, I'm ready to go outside now. And so I'll let her outside, and then she'll do her chicken thing. She'll be a chicken during the day, and explore the yard, scratch in the dirt, dust bathe, green. She's running in the yard, and 90% of her photos will come back. I mean, she looks incredible versus the way she looked when she first came. When we found her, she was in the manure pit, really unable to stand, was so weak. Who knows how long she had been down there, just left to drown in her own excrement or die of thirst and starvation. When the vet first saw the chicken, she was horrified at their condition, and this is a letter she wrote. The initial presentation of these chickens at our hospital was disappointing and disturbing. The group in general were dull, weak, dehydrated, some with overt fractures, skin wounds, some were dead and some dying. The transformation of these hens has been incredible. They were scrawny and emaciated and weak, and now they're strong, they're vibrant, they're healthy, and you can see the lust they have for life. They're excited to come out of the shed every morning and explore the garden. The difference is a fortunate, but at the same time cruel dichotomy, because there must have been so many others that were never or never will be rescued. The life of a modern day egg-laying hen is so horrific.
Imagine getting trapped in an elevator with an elevator full of strangers, and imagine if you got trapped in that elevator for 1.5 years. no family, no natural lighting, no windows, don't get to choose who you spend your time with. If you don't get along with them, too bad. If they pick a fight with you, too bad. You can't bathe, you can't get clean, you can't go outside, you can't do anything at all. And at the end of this year and a half, imagine if you were grabbed upside down by your leg by a captor who didn't see you and didn't register your pain and suffering, and ultimately you were killed and eaten. That is the life of an egg-laying hen in Canada.
As soon as you enter any of these egg barns, you're immediately overwhelmed by the powerful stench of ammonia. It's so strong it makes your eyes water. You turn a flashlight on and you can see the air is just full of particulate matter that you cannot help but breathe in. You look down the rows upon rows of cages and you see all of these individuals packed into wire cages the size of a filing cabinet drawer, with anywhere from 5 to 10 birds in each cage. And if you go down below into the manure pit, I saw birds dead and dying there as well.
In hatcheries, they're hatched into a tray, and the first thing that they know is being separated. Female chicks, of course, will go on to become the laying hens, but the male chicks have no use. They can't be used for meat chickens because they're bred for different purposes, and so they'll be killed immediately upon hatching, which is typically in a large industrial macerator. Think of a large blender, and that's pretty much what a macerator is. Chickens are incredible mothers. It's unimaginable to think that they don't know their babies or that their babies don't have the warmth and comfort of their mothers. Separation from family is completely standard, even on humane certified farms.
The reason that chickens lose their feathers is because every time they're frightened, they're just constantly rubbing and flapping against these wire cages that are confined them.
And they cut off their beaks because when they're confined so densely, they'll self-mutilate and mutilate each other.
Chicks will be debeaked, which means that they have the tip of their beak seared off by a hot blade. This is done without painkillers. It causes acute and chronic pain. For the rest of their lives, they will feel the effects of this debeaking. In nature, chickens would normally lay 1 dozen or 2 dozen eggs per year, which is just like every other bird. Everyone knows that birds nest and lay eggs in the springtime. That's what chickens would normally do, except that we have genetically selected them to lay hundreds of eggs per year. As anyone can imagine, this would be incredibly taxing on their bodies. In the cages, chickens will often suffer from unanticipated but common health problems such as prolapses, or they will become egg-bound. A prolapse is basically the hen's body sort of turning itself inside out, and this is caused by laying so many eggs. Their bodies just become so weak they can't take it anymore. Another thing that can happen is the hens can become egg-bound. So they'll have a problem releasing one of the eggs, and this will create a backlog in their oviducts. The eggs just build up until they eventually die from this condition. At the end of the day, even on humane certified farms, chickens will be killed at a fraction of their normal lifespan, and they will be sent to slaughter and used for low-grade chicken products. Egg-laying hens, at the end of their egg-laying lives, are incredibly fragile, delicate animals. They can't withstand the rigors of transport, of being handled, and because the transport containers are open, they're not climate controlled, and there's no forced air to ventilate them, the chickens are being exposed to whatever the weather is that day. And although the transport regulations are supposed to require the animals not be suffering from weather exposure, in practice, the industry is transporting animals every single day of the year, regardless of weather. Many millions of chickens will die or come close to dying en route to slaughter in Canada. This is not a case of a few bad apples. This is a case of a rotten industry.
It's hard to imagine. I've never been forced to experience anything like that. Just a life of complete deprivation, having everything taken away that could possibly make their life worth living. I think chickens are incredibly happy here because they're finally able to express all of these natural desires. They spent the majority of their lives up until this point in a battery cage, and they had never seen a chicken express natural behaviors like scratch dust bathing, exploring, or roosting, but without ever having seen a chicken do these behaviors in their entire lives. You set them on grass and put them in sunshine for the very first time, and immediately they start exhibiting these natural behaviors. I'm in a position of privilege. How could I not advocate and work on behalf of these innocent beings that are suffering?
Yeah, so that's Penny. I have the privilege of living with all of those rescue hens, and yeah, I love them. They're amazing, especially Penny. That video was, yeah.
Will they still only live 17 weeks?
No, outside of an egg farm, like the eggs, if you were to leave chickens in battery cages and give them feed and water, they would live a lot longer. They wouldn't be producing viable eggs for the industry. They go there, they die, they're killed prematurely because they're not profitable to the industry, and it just doesn't make business sense to continue giving food and water to an animal that you're not getting any profit from, that's costing them money. So that's why they're sent to the slaughter. So the hens in this video, they're probably it's like 4 years old now, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, they will live 10, 12 years.
So the moment you take them out of that sort of surrounding, they're not producing eggs at that capacity anymore?
No, they're still producing eggs, but in that environment, they don't produce. The eggs aren't as the egg shells have become really thin. The chickens at my house right now, they're producing eggs, and they are viable eggs for the most part. But their life is a lot different from the life of an egg-laying hen in the industry.
But they're not producing hundreds of eggs like they said.
No,
They produce like an egg a day still.
pretty close. It'll drop slightly, but pretty, like, at least I'd say 90% of what they were producing in their prime, maybe more.